Alright, hello and welcome everybody back to another Flight Sim fan video. Today we're in the MD82 by Leonardo for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I recently got this airplane. Although expensive, it is one of the better ones that I've enjoyed, obviously with the 737, but this one's really good. I won't really go into too many details of how to fly it or how to use it today, but today is going to just be a simple autopilot tutorial. That's actually an autopilot tutorial for almost any plane. I'll be talking about logic. Because most autopilots have the same kind of functions, only they might just be called something different. So today we'll be going over that. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a paint window. So autopilot, short we'll do AP. Now I'll say please bear with me with my writing on the computer, but autopilot has to control, or doesn't have to, but in the MD82, 737, A320, all these big airliners, they control three main things. Okay, the first thing is speed. That looks like a 5. Let's change that. Is speed. Should probably make this bigger, shouldn't I? That way I can have room to spell it out. Actually, I'm pretty impressed with that. Anyway, there's speed. Okay, the second one, altitude. And let me do it in order of actually how the autopilots are laid out. So the second one we'll say is, you can say heading or lateral, but we'll just put heading for now. And I already gave it away, altitude. So speed, heading, and altitude. An autopilot's core foundation is just doing these three things. How it does these three things is up to you. So let's start labeling some stuff. For heading control, obviously we have heading, we have H, D, G, select. Okay, that's heading select. We'll be going over that one first. We also got one called LNAV. Okay, and that stands for lateral navigation. So it's controlling the heading, per se, or the track of the airplane, via an FMS, a GPS, any sort of system like that. Another one we would have is VOR loc. Okay, and you can capture a localizer, which we'll get into what a localizer is. But if you know what an ILS is, then it'll capture a localizer, which is basically a course of a runway. You can think of it as. So it'll get aligned with a runway by itself, that kind of thing. All the talking about lefts and rights only, not ups and downs yet, or faster or slower. That's all airplanes are, by the way. Up, down, left, right, faster, slower. That's all it is. Versus a car is forward, back. That's it. Left, right. That's it. Forward, back, left, right. So we got two extra dimensions. Okay, there's probably some other here, but we're going to leave this for now. So heading select, LNAV, and view our localizer. Altitude, some things it controls, or how to control this. We have V speed. It's actually vert speed, I should do it like that. Okay, and that stands for a vertical speed. So I can control the vertical speed. I'm going to make this pretty bright. I'll do this. I'll go back. And I can tune into my autopilot. I want you to set 1,000 feet per minute, 500 feet per minute, whatever I want. Another one would be VNAV. Okay, so this is LNAV and VNAV. LNAV, VNAV. VNAV is vertical navigation. So with some of the smarter airplanes, an MD82 will do it, and 777, 320, all of them do it. Vertical navigation, you can say I want to be by this waypoint at a certain speed. So VNAV is technically a speed one as well. Put it here. At a certain speed, at a certain altitude. So you can tell the computer, I want to be at this geographical or even GPS coordinate at this height at this speed. Do it. And that's, in VNAV mode, it'll calculate the correct descent path, when to start descending, and to make it to that waypoint you've selected at the speed you want, at the altitude you want. So we got vertical speed, VNAV, sorry. A lot of airplanes have something called speed or IAS, Mach. Getting fancy with my M there. We'll talk about this in a second. And we'll leave that for now. We'll do 3 of each. So in the speed section, so that's altitude done, headings done. Speed section, we actually have a button called speed in the MD82, and most other airplanes are usually called something along these lines. VNAV controls speed as well. And, did I forget anything? We got one called FMS override. This is a MD82 thing. I'll put OV. And we'll talk about, for the first, 10, 15 minutes or maybe less, we're just going to talk about speed, heading, altitude, and the easy ones. So we're going to talk about speed mode, heading select, and vertical speed, IAS Mach. We'll get into VNAV, LNAV, either a separate video or a later one into this one. I haven't decided how long I want this to be. So let's go to the airplane. I'll turn this off. So we're going to start with the simple ones. We have speed, heading, and altitude, just like where I drew out. For speed, we're going to talk about something real quick actually called the FMA, the Flight Mode Annunciator. Modern airplanes have this entire panel at the top of their PFD. This is a PFD, primary flight display. So modern airplanes have this whole panel incorporated at the top. Same kind of thing though. Speed would be there. Any lateral navigation stuff would be here. Headings, heading hold, heading select, LNAV. And then any altitude or vertical navigation would be here. VNAV, vertical speed, flight level change, which isn't in this airplane, but it kind of is. It's a weird way. But that's how it's laid out, just like my drawing. Speed, heading, altitude. And here as well, speed, heading, altitude. The only difference here is this one has a armed section. We'll talk about that shortly. So always check with the flight mode annunciator of what the airplane is actually doing. I can go ahead and click a bunch of stuff, alright? But I don't, if you click too many things, you don't know what you've clicked. There's no lights here. So you want to make sure that, hey, I'm now in heading hold, altitude hold, right? It tells you right there. Read it like a text message. We're going to go back to takeoff mode. Takeoff, or takeoff. Close enough. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set our heading to runway heading. So I'm just going to spin this around. And you can see that on most airplanes, I'll get rid of my yoke for you, you'll be represented either with a green bug, or if I go to the arc, oh, I wasn't the right one. If I go to the arc here, most airplanes do as well have giant either magenta, green, or whatever type of line they'd like to show you their heading on. Okay, so that's all done. Let's set, we're going to go up to 5,000 feet. And notice that this Autopilot has a manual arming a system. So most new airliners, I just set 5,000 feet, and it's going to, whatever mode I pick to get to 5,000 feet, either vertical speed, IAS, or VNAV, whatever mode I get to 5,000, it'll just level off for me at 5. It won't go through 5. This airplane and some other ones like a CRJ, a Q400, those type of airplanes, usually lesser grade autopilots, you have a manual armed of the altitude that you want to capture. So for example, if I was just climbing up right now in any mode, let's just say vertical speed, I was doing 2,000 a minute, 4,000 feet, great, 4,500, 4,800, and 5,000, then it's going to keep going, 5,500, 5,600, it's going to keep going because I haven't told it to stop at 5. The way I tell it to stop at 5 is clicking this, and now you'll see Alt, and that's armed. So something you can say to yourself, let's say for example ATC says climb maintain 5,000. Let's just say it was set at 3. So they come and say, hey, climb maintain 5,000. Okay, climb maintain 5,000. 5,000, alt cell. So you can say it out loud to your side. 5,000 set, alt cell, alt selected, or alt armed, whatever you want to use in your vocabulary. So get in the habit of going, climb maintain 8,000, 8,000 set, alt cell, something like that. So we're good there. We're 5,000 feet and it's been armed to level off at 5,000. What we're going to do is I'm going to take off. As soon as we get the gear up in kind of clean configuration, let me get rid of this visibility so you can have a nicer view outside. There you go. I'm going to take off. We're going to go into heading select and we'll do vertical speed to start. So I'll show you on the ground how it works. Most airplanes, the way it works, either it has a knob separate for vertical speed, or you click vertical speed and then set a vertical speed you'd like. So if I click vertical speed, you've noticed that my FMA is now changed to vertical speed. What you can also see is my flight director is behaving with that. Right now it's set to 0. All right? If I go ahead and program a 2,500 feet per minute climb, once we take off, it actually should do on the ground, what other airplanes do, but once we take off, that flight director is going to move up to what should give you 2,500 feet per minute. So we'll talk about flight directors later. Let me turn, I can't because it takes FMAs off. All right, we'll leave it on. Let's go back here. We'll go back in takeoff mode. But that's how you change it. You can click vertical speed. Now you're in vertical speed mode. And you can change what vertical speed you'd like the airplane to do, or what you'd like to do. Some airplanes like this, you can just scroll the knob and it just turns into vertical speed. You don't even have to click it. But we won't get into that. Anyways, that's that. I've set it to hold 250 knots after we take off. So we'll do that. And we're going up to 5,000. So let's go ahead and take off. I'm going to go to this side. Let me just get my joystick out of the table here. I'm going to set a couple of things because the MD80 likes to yell at pilots that doesn't have it properly set up. So let's arm the speed brakes, or the spoilers I should say. Let's put our auto brakes in RTO. Let's go ahead and set a flap setting. It already has one actually. So that looks okay. We can use that. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's known as it's going to be an auto throttle takeoff for the toga button, which you probably heard before. It's a little different in the MD80 than conventional new airliners. But anyways, I have takeoff mode set, and you can see here that, let's say for example I go to climb power, the EPR, the engine pressure ratio, the power the airplane's going to put out is different for any mode that I pick. GAR mode, cruise mode, takeoff, flex. So we're going to be in takeoff mode. This is basically our maximum power takeoff. You also got flex, which is more of a reduced power takeoff. So that's what they usually do. But for today, I'll just use it in takeoff. So because we have takeoff selected, as soon as I click the auto throttle to on, it's going to set the power right to that limit. And you'll see how that works. So parking brake is off. I'm going to bring my power up, and we're going to start rolling a little bit. We're looking for an N1 to be stabilized. I don't know what the MD80 crews use, but I usually use 40. I got that pretty good actually. There's 40. Okay, let's go ahead and hit auto throttle. And you can hear, and that's the throttles moving there. I'm going to pause here. You can see it says EPR takeoff, engine pressure ratio to takeoff. So the auto throttle is going to bring all this way right there. The pause probably didn't like that, but okay, and then the pilot monitor is going to say thrust set, which I don't have one unfortunately. RV1 has already been passed. Rotate. This airplane is very tail. It's very long, so you don't want to scrape the tail too much, or at all. Let me back that up. You don't want to scrape the tail at all. So when you bring the nose up, be very gentle and let the airplane just climb into the air. Okay, and I'm going to pitch myself right on these flight directors. The flight director's in takeoff mode. I'm going to put the thing literally on the thing. That's all flying is, thing on the thing. So put your flight path vector on the crosshair. That's it. Now I'm going to go to a climb power setting. So the auto throttle will reduce my power. Okay. And I'm going to pause. Let's go ahead and say I want to maintain a, let's say runway heading at 1,000 feet per minute. So let's go ahead. I can't change it in here. But let's go ahead and set 1,000 a minute. Okay. Runway heading. So I'll click that for heading select and autopilot on. So what I've done, I'll pause again. What I've done is I've clicked climb mode, which new auto throttles will actually just cycle into it for you once you're in VNAV, but we can't really do that here. And it's taken that. The engine pressure ratio is now in climb. Altitude is still armed to level off at 5,000. We're in heading select mode, so anywhere I turn this knob, the airplane's going to turn to, the heading mode. And vertical speed, we're climbing at 1,000 feet per minute. Okay, I'm going to unpause. So what should happen is about 900 feet away from our 5,000 foot that we've selected. It should go ahead and give you a chime for 1,000 to go. I want speed mode here, so I'm going to click speed. And now I know that it's going to try to maintain 250 knots and not go above it, but it won't go above the climb power that I've set there. It won't go past the power setting. That orange is a border, and the yellow won't cross. All right, so we're climbing up. If I want to climb up a little bit faster, I just scroll this up. Let's say 2,000 a minute, right? The autopilot will start pitching the nose up a little bit, adding more power as well as you. Oh, I guess I was too late. Let's clean this airplane up a little bit. Flaps come up. Turn the speed brakes off. Let's take the auto brakes back to off. Luckily, the flap speed in this airplane are crazy. You can see here. Flaps 15, 240 knots. It's insane. 1,000 to go. You hear that little chime? Okay. Alt went away, but now it's in alt capture mode. So it's going to slowly start leveling me off for 5,000 feet. Right, we're still at speed of 250. We're still in heading select. I can turn myself anywhere I wanted to if I want to. And we're in altitude hold now. It's slowly starting to get me to 5. It's a very nice and gradual level off into the altitude. So I would practice. You don't have to take off, by the way, with auto throttle and all that complicated stuff. You can just take off, and then once you're level, start fiddling around. I would practice giving yourself different altitudes with different speeds at different headings. Either manually flying the airplane or the autopilot. Both is good practice. Now we're level at 5,000 feet, 250 knots. Let's say we got an ATC come up and they said, hey, turn right heading of 190. Or 200, let's say. Descend and maintain 3,000. Okay, that's easy. 200. Oh, sorry, I should say left. My brain's all over the place. 200. Right? Now we want 3,000 feet. So as the airplane's turning left to 200, scroll this to 3. Right? It won't do anything yet, though, because we haven't told it to descend. We haven't picked a descend mode. So you can choose various modes. You can choose vertical speed again. You can choose IAS Mach and VNAV. Let's choose IAS Mach today. IAS Mach is a climb or descend mode that, by the way, vertical speed is climb or descend as well. IAS Mach is a climb or descend mode where I tell the airplane I want you to pitch for a certain airspeed and I'll set the power. So watch this. If I click IAS Mach and I say I want you to maintain 250 knots, the speed section goes to clamp, which means I can use my power wherever I want. So if I want to descend really fast, power comes to idle, it's going to pitch the nose down to do whatever it needs to do to maintain 250 knots. So it's going to be a very steep descent. All right, passing 1,500 feet. Actually, it's not doing that bad. 1,500 feet per minute to hold 250. Let's say I wanted to level off a little bit. Add some power back in. This is manually, by the way. So I'm adding thrust. Therefore, adding thrust to maintain 250, the nose has to come up. All right, so you'll see it pretty much level off for itself. So this is pitching for an airspeed. All right, whatever my power is set to, it'll pitch for the airspeed. So if I want to descend, let's bring the power back a little bit. Power comes back, speed decreases, right? To hold speed, the nose will come down. And that's why it's coming down. So I can pick how fast or shallow, or how steep or shallow this descent or climb would go by decreasing a little bit more power. Let's try to aim for 1,000 feet per minute here. Just a rough number. Okay, we've gone through 1,000 feet, so I have to add a little bit of power. All right, I set that power, and I'm just kind of waiting to see. I've gone past it, so you can see that this one, it's if you're trying to maintain a certain vertical speed, I would use vertical speed mode. But this is more of saying I don't want to bust my speed restriction or something like that going through 10,000 if you're not using VNav. Or a really good one to do is on takeoff. You'd be an IS Mach saying, hey, I want this climb speed with maximum power. So maximum power that the airplane can put out in climb power setting, I want you not to go any lower or higher than whatever, 180 or what if you've calculated a VX or a VY. So now we're in altitude capture mode. And notice that now that we're in, I'm going to pause, notice now that we're in altitude capture mode, the autopilot has taken my throttle away from me. Clamp has gone away, and now it's speed 250 saying, hey, we're going to do the speed now because we're going to level off the airplane. So as the nose comes up, it's going to start adding power. All right, you'll see that hopefully shortly. It might not because we were a little fast there. But you'll see it eventually start to come up. So altitude hold, power is coming up to hold 250. That warning you're hearing is just the airplane trimming for itself. Don't worry about that. So it's going to progressively add a little bit of power to hold itself level at 250 knots, 3,000 feet. It's currently at a 200 feet per minute descent currently to get me down to 3,000. So let's talk about, if that all makes sense, let's talk about the flight directors. Just to recap though, all that was speed, headings, and altitudes. We've used vertical speed, which is I just pick a vertical speed that I want. I'd watch if you're doing very steep descents or very steep climbs, I'd watch your airspeed because the engine may not be able to come back enough or add too much, or it won't be able to add infinite power for you to climb very steep or descend very shallow or descend very steep. IS Mach, which is pitching for an airspeed, and that depends on my power. If I pull the power right to idle, it'll nosedive to keep you that speed you've selected. It's kind of like flight level change in a way. And then speed hold is if I want 250, I'm at 250. If I want 240, I scroll 240. 240 speed. The orange caret moves as well, and the airplane will slow down. Pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of power away. All right, now it's going to put power in because I want a little extra speed. Alrighty, speed, heading, altitude. So now let's go ahead and talk about flight directors. Flight directors are there for the pilot. The autopilot doesn't really need flight directors. It's more of a visual representation of where your airplane needs to be to achieve what you plugged in here. So for example, if I went ahead and turned the autopilot off, okay, you'll notice, let me get this trimmed a little bit. There we go. Let's say I want to go to, let's say I want to go to 5,000 feet again at 2,000 feet per minute. Let's go down here. You'll notice my horizontal bar is going up. So what I have to do to achieve 2,000 feet per minute is put this dot on the heading I want, by the way, this dot at that crosshair. So let me go ahead and put this, just put the thing literally on the thing, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, and that's it right there. Very nice and smooth. All right, let's go ahead and pause. Let's take a look. You know, pretty close, right? 2,000 a minute. So this is for you to, if you're manually flying the airplane, you can, when you're flying even on ILS, you put the thing on the thing, and that, if it's set up correctly, mind you, if your autopilot is set up correctly, it will achieve what you've told it you want. So I want 2,000 feet per minute, up to 5,000 feet. Auto throttle's taking care of my speed for me, so it's going to add power for my climb. All right, and I want this heading that I've selected. If I turn my heading to the left, you'll see my vertical bar come left. Okay, 1,000 to go. Now it's going to go to Alt Capture. You're going to notice my attitude getting lower and lower as I level off. Let's, for example, say I want a 30-degree turn. I'll put the heading thick part in 30 degrees, and now I have to turn a lot more to achieve the bank of 30. Although I'm coming up to my heading shortly. Okay, and I'm slowly pitching down, maybe a little bit of trim to help me out here. Not too much. And it's very small adjustments. All right, now we're level at 5,000 feet on the heading of 150. I'll select the autopilot back on. So Cessna 172s and older kind of airplanes that are especially not glass won't have flight directors. So the way we fly is strictly, well, if you're VFR, you're flying outside. But if you're IFR, you'd be flying without a flight director. Flight directors make life very easy. Put your thing on the thing. As long as the autopilot panel, the MCP is the Boeing term, mode control panel, as long as this has been set up properly, then you should achieve what you wanted out of it. So that's going to be it for this video. Just a basic autopilot tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and make other ones on capturing localizer ILS courses, VNAV climb descents, and LNAV and all that kind of stuff. So hope you enjoyed, hope it helped. And again, this is to any airplane. All of them work roughly the same. It's just the names of things might be a little different to achieve the mode. For example, a good example in this airplane, lateral navigation is just called nav, whereas in the Boeings, it'll be called LNAV instead of just nav. So this would have L and then VNAV, LNAV, VNAV. That's the difference. It does the exact same thing. It's just called something else. So that'd be ILS in this button. This button called ILS is approach on a Boeing. I think even on an Airbus. So that does the same exact thing, just called something different. So yeah, hope you helped. I hope it helped, and I'll see you guys in the next video.